first of all, I want to thank you all for coming here today. We have a number of members from our community here, elected officials. I see state representatives, senators, council members who are here to my left. Other elected officials, ministers from our community, community leaders, and those who are concerned. And I want to let you know that I really appreciate all of you all being here today. Today, after an investigation, the U.S. Department of Justice announced that no federal charges would be filed against the two Baton Rouge police officers involved in the death of Alton Sterling. I have been in contact with the Sterling family to express my continued sympathy. No decision by the Department of Justice can replace the loss of Mr. Sterling. You see, Mr. Sterling's name is more than a hashtag or a Facebook post. He was a human being, a member of our community, a father, a brother, an uncle, nephew, and son. Many in the community who were hoping and praying for a different decision will understandably be disappointed, frustrated, and angry. This decision by the Justice Department to not file charges does not mean the police officers acted appropriately. It means there was not sufficient evidence, according to what we heard from the Department of Justice, to charge the officers with violating the civil rights of Mr. Sterling. And many in the community will disagree or not fully understand how that could be true. They may want to voice their dissent and anger about the decision through protests. And certainly as Americans who have the right to free speech and lawful assembly, they are within their rights to do so, as long as the protests are peaceful and do not endanger the safety of other citizens, businesses, property, and law enforcement officers in the parish. As I urge people to keep calm and keep the peace of the parish, this does not have to mean that we are satisfied with the status quo. That is why I met with community leaders my first week in office, and collaboratively we announced revisions to the Baton Rouge Police Department's training policy manual surrounding use of force. In addition, on Wednesday, April 26th, the East Baton Rouge Metro Council members appropriated $2.5 million to secure body cameras for all Baton Rouge Police Department officers. This community deserves 21st century policing, which will include expanded and more effective training. Officers will soon participate in an implicit bias training program to improve fair and impartial policing. And I believe that the majority of our Baton Rouge Police Department officers are up for the task. Now, there's much work still to be done to increase the level of respect that our police officers have for our citizens and citizens for our police officers. And I am committed as mayor to keep doing that important work, to keep working to close the gap between our officers and the citizens in this wonderful community. One of my central duties as mayor is to make sure that every citizen is safe from harm, including anyone who chooses to protest or voice opposition or speak out. I will be strong and firm in making sure that every citizen is safe from harm. Anytime the citizens of this parish are put in danger by anyone, there will be action taken to ensure the safety of those citizens as well as our law enforcement officers. My office has been coordinated and meeting with the governor's office and other agencies, and together we've been preparing for the announcement of the decision. These meetings began almost immediately after I took office to ensure that every agency was on the same page. The governor and his office have been involved in those meetings, and he has pledged to work with this parish government to make certain that required resources that are necessary will be available to us. And I appreciate his help and partnership on this. Now, let me speak personally to all those who are angry, frustrated, and confused by today's decision. I understand, and I'm asking that you continue to be peaceful and prayerful. If you feel a need to protest, of course, by all means, you have the right to lawfully assemble and protest in a powerful way and in a peaceful way. We owe it to the memory of Alton Sterling, to his family, and to our community to continue to make changes that make Baton Rouge a just and equitable city. We must rebuild trust where it has been fractured. We must advance opportunities for every citizen of Baton Rouge to thrive and prosper. We must commit to initiatives that promote equity and social justice. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, the road ahead is not altogether a smooth one. There are no broad highways that lead us easily and inevitably to quick solutions. But we must keep going. I know that we are a strong community that respects each other in our diversity in culture and backgrounds. We must also respect our diverse opinions as well. Now is the time to rally around the ties that bind us so that we can be stronger together. Now, I'll bring up the governor of our great state.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank all of you for being here. This decision that was announced today was certainly a long time coming, and I understand that the wait has not been easy, especially for the Sterling family. 10 months after Alton's death, I know it must be painful for the family to relive the tragedy, and that pain extends to many in the community. And over the last 10 months, under both the Obama and Trump administrations, the U.S. Department of Justice has conducted an investigation into the events that unfolded here in Baton Rouge on July 5th, 2016. This case was handed over to the Department of Justice immediately because we wanted to make sure that it was handled in a professional, impartial, and thorough manner. While many here today and out around Baton Rouge and Louisiana and elsewhere may not agree with their decision today, it is incumbent upon us here as Louisianans to pull together to assure peace is maintained as we continue to see this process through. And as far as what that process looks like, with the U.S. Department of Justice announcement today that they will not pursue charges, federal charges, against either of the officers involved, and because the East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney had previously recused himself and his office from this matter, it is now up to the Louisiana Department of Justice and Attorney General Jeff Landry to determine whether any state charges will be brought. Now, while we await that decision, and as I've said many times, and as Mayor Broome just made a similar comment a few minutes ago, we still have too many people in our community who are afraid of the police and too many police officers afraid of members of our community. It doesn't have to be that way. It should not be this way, and we all have a role to play to make things better. Since last summer, my office has been working tirelessly to continue to have constructive dialogue, enact meaningful reforms, and expand opportunity with leaders in this community, both elected and community leaders, religious leaders, and others, to build stronger bonds as Louisianans. More recently, since Mayor Broome has taken office, we've worked closely together with her to continue these efforts. Those conversations and that work are still ongoing and will continue. Last summer, frustrations ran high, and we understand that. Our challenge collectively is to turn that frustration into positive change, change in how we treat one another, change how we see one another. But we should remember, Louisianans and the folks here in Baton Rouge expressed their frustrations peacefully, in a law-abiding manner. And we all have the right to give voice and visibility to our concerns and frustrations. But nobody has the right to engage in unlawful behavior, particularly violent behavior, or to engage in property destruction, because that endangers the lives of everyone involved, including bystanders, protesters, and demonstrators themselves, and certainly the law enforcement community, and that's not going to be tolerated. Our goal was and is to build trust and mutual respect between the people and the police. That will only happen if we listen and engage with one another. And as we move forward, I would ask everyone to pray for Alton's family and pray for our community that is continuing to heal. We can choose now, in the very difficult times that we're in, to be peacemakers, as we're called to be. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, so that together we can be called the children of God. I suspect that's exactly what we ought to do right now, and that's what I'm encouraging people to do. We are stronger as a people because we faced a lot of adversity in the past. And I've seen the very best of the people of Louisiana in the face of adversity. I expect no less this time. That must be our mission going forward as well. And Mayor Broome, I will continue to be a partner with you in East Baton Rouge Parish as this community and our state continues to move through this process and to heal. And at this point in time, we will take some questions.
Governor or Mayor, are you at all satisfied with the way the announcement of the decision was handled by the Department of Justice? The fact that it was leaked yesterday to major news networks rather than DOJ coming down here and discussing it first with our local leaders and then the local folks in the community?
I certainly don't know anyone who was satisfied with the way that this decision rolled out yesterday with the leak. I made a statement yesterday in saying that I was appalled at what took place in terms of this information coming out through the press before the family even had an opportunity to hear. So that was certainly unsettling for me, and I'm sure for anybody else that heard that information come down like that.
And I want to echo those comments because it was very disrespectful to tell the family that they could expect to know first and then to have it come from the national media. But secondly, I would tell you that the U.S. Attorney was correct today when he talked about how his agency and ours had been working very closely together to determine how this information would be rolled out. Certainly we didn't know when it was going to come. We didn't know what the decision was going to be. But from a public safety perspective, we worked together to try to figure out how we would want that to happen. Well, the leak prevented us from being able to take advantage of all of that time and effort and energy that we put into that. And so I do hope that there will be some investigation and try to figure out exactly how that leak occurred, because it was disrespectful to the family. But it also made it harder to do what is always priority number one for us, and that is maintain public safety. But having said that, I still expect the people of Louisiana and Baton Rouge to respond appropriately. This just made it a little bit harder.
Mayor Broome, Together Baton Rouge had a press conference a little while ago, and they're calling on you to call on the Attorney General or the Department of Justice to release that video evidence that everybody's heard so much about. I don't know if you have the power to do that, but will you do that? Have you seen the tapes? When?
I have seen no tapes. Neither have I received personal communication from Together Baton Rouge. As you well know, the case is now in the hands, or will be in the hands, of the State Attorney General, and he is asking for assistance from the state police. I will ask the governor to add anything he feels necessary towards that comment.
Well, I can't imagine, for the same reasons that the U.S. Department of Justice didn't release any of this information while it was doing its investigation, I can't imagine that any of this is going to come forward until after the State Attorney General has completed his investigation and made his decision one way or another.
But eventually, would you like to see that tape released?
Well, I think that's going to play out over time, and at some point, it's my understanding that these matters do become public record, but that is not until after the investigations.
Are you okay with the way that the Attorney General has decided to hand off most of the investigation to the state police? Are you confident that that is going to be a good way to deal with the state investigation going forward? And do you trust that the Attorney General's office will do a thorough investigation?
Well, I trust the Attorney General's office is going to do a thorough investigation. I would echo the comments that Corey Amundson made, the acting U.S. Attorney, where he said that the matter now is in the hands of the Attorney General. The state police will assist as requested to do so. There has already been a very thorough investigation where the type of work that the state police would do had it been the principal agency investigating this matter from the outset has already been done. And so we would expect at this point the Attorney General and acting through whatever prosecutor he appoints to the case will take a good look at the evidence and determine what, if any, additional investigation is warranted, and we will then assist with that additional investigation. And I believe that his press release indicated that that's the way this will unfold.
One last question.
Would you have preferred a special prosecutor to take over the case? Did you
A
talk to him?
special
at all?
prosecutor of whom? About whom?
Well, I know, for example, the House Black Caucus asked last summer for a outside prosecutor, not the Attorney General, to handle the matter.
I want to make sure I know that you're talking about the state attorney general, or you're talking about?
The state attorney.
No, the state attorney general's office is vested with this authority once the East Baton Rouge Parish district attorney recused himself in his office. And I have confidence that that's going to play out appropriately.
Mayor, what is your
the
directive
status on
then to police during the protests? We saw that the protesters who were arrested last night were arrested on felony counts, whereas they were arrested on misdemeanor counts over the summer. Is that part of your directive?
What happened last night as it relates to those individuals that were arrested has to do with their what they did that was in line with felony charges. It was not a directive to have protesters who are protesting peacefully to be arrested. I think if you research what happened in terms of violating, for example, having a gun in a zone where you're not supposed to have a gun and having it concealed, all of that led up to those particular charges.
Mayor Broome, what
I'll take one more question.
Given that they in not so many words, described the actions of the police officers as reckless, do you know any status on those police officers? Will they be fired? Where do they go?
And so I'm going to let this process play out in terms of the criminal charges that could subsequently become reality with the State Attorney General and the investigation perhaps involving the state troopers. And then I will talk to Chief Davity and we will make a decision from there. But we have to let this process play out.
Real quick, Mayor, in light of what happened last summer,
Thank you so much.
have y'all made any preparations with extra security?
I knew they were going to do it.